like everyone should know, or if you don't know who Dean is, Dean Da Costa, the search authority, is a decorated veteran, family man, and recognized sourcing expert with more than 30 years of experience. Dean is recognized leader in the areas of recruiting hacking, research, and find what you can't be found, possessing certification of open source intelligence, ethical hacking, PM, programming, and more. He has spoken at numerous conferences, including SourceCon, Talent 42, Recruiting Trends, and so on. He's the author of the book of recruiting DaCosta style, open source intelligence for a staffing world. And also he has produced the Search Authority podcast and also his YouTube channel. All right,
Okay.
Dean, take it
So
away.
only one point to note. It's Da Costa.
Oh, DaCosta, sorry.
Yeah, well, actually, you want to be technical. It's Dean Antonio Miguel Juan da Costa. I am Portuguese, but that's another ballgame. All right, guys. So first of all, I want everybody to understand this is not an advanced Boolean class. This is not tips and tricks that Dean can do to do stuff that no one else can do, although those will be coming. This is actually a beginner level, a 101. Um, Basically, I equate this to learning how to tie your shoe and walking. That's it. So I want to make sure everybody understands what we're getting into today, so that there's zero doubt. Um, let's me share my screen. Some of this is going to be static. Most of it's going to be live because I hate static. Anybody who's ever heard me talk, I hate static. I like to be able to show. So Boolean 101, this is actually a new picture. So first things first, let's understand Boolean because I think it's important that recruiters do not dismiss Boolean. Boolean was created in 1880 by George Boole, and it was a scripting language for SQL. That's correct, boys and girls. You are actually programming. It's low level. I mean, my 4-year old granddaughter knows how to do some of it, but it's still programming, scripting, and you need to really understand that because once you really get it and you really know how to do it, you're going to find out that you can accomplish some really cool things. Now, you may not see much of that here, although I may just give you an idea of what you could do if once you get beyond the basics. But it's important that you get an idea. The whole idea behind Boolean is basically telling the search engine where to look, what to look, and how to look. So I equate this, as it says there, to a street address. I mean, in URL as an example, and we will learn what that means. That's like a town. The resume, which is a word, is like the street, and then whatever it is you're searching for is like the house number. So if I was to equate it to say my I live at 25231 133rd place, Southeast Kent, Washington. So think of Kent, Washington as you saying look in the URL. Think of the 133rd Street as you saying to look for a resume, and then the 25231 is Java developer. And I think if you look at it that way, you're going to find that Boolean is not that difficult. The most difficult part of Boolean is probably keeping up with the changes that are constantly made and the fact that not all search engines use the same Boolean logic. Now, lately, well, not lately, in the last 5 to 7 years, other things have come out that allow you to search for things in the web. Besides Boolean, you have semantic. Semantic is basically nothing more than Boolean without the operator. So if you look at these examples up here, if you see the difference between this one and this one, the only difference is the in URL colon. Well, the in URL colon is Boolean. You're just taking it out, and that's semantic. Natural language is basically just talk how you speak. Find resumes of Java developers. Believe it or not, some search engines work that simple. Now, is it the best? Is it going to be on target all the time? No, but it can be used. And then thirdly is a combined approach where you're using a little bit of everything. If you look at the last thing, find resumes of Java developers. Yeah, that's all natural language. By adding the word Seattle with no live in Seattle or anything, that makes it semantic. And then the file type command makes it Boolean. So this is a combined approach. You'd be surprised the differences in the results you get from each of those. Um, so let's the big thing in here is that it's really really important that you understand how many. It's not just Google, it's not just Bing. There are thousands upon thousands of search engines out there, and I'm actually going to show you real quickly what I mean. uh, Most of you are familiar with my SSAR page, search, staffing, searching, sourcing, and recruiting. This is the search engine utopia page. These are all search engines that exist out there in the world. And this is not all of them. This is just all the ones I've put on here. Each one of them might work a little bit differently than, say, Google or Bing, and you need to be prepared for that. And that's why when you're writing Boolean strings, you really want to write them so they can be used in all of them. And that's hard to do, but I'm going to help you understand that. So let's get into some of the most common operators you're going to see out there. Obviously, the and is without a doubt the most common operator you're going to see. Basically, it expands your search. You're saying, look for this and this. Well, actually, let me take that back. It doesn't expand. That's what the word does. But the and, it's saying, look for Java and developer. So it's going to look for both words. If you and the idea behind it is to help make sure that whatever you look for has everything right. It could be Java and Linux and Hadoop and whatever. The or the pipe, which is a straight line, that narrows things that can narrow things down as down, or can pick them up. It really depends on how you use your or. Usually, if you're using it in a normal or, like saying Java or C++, that's going to expand your search. If you're using Java or C++, there are a lot more people that have one or the other than have both. Sometimes it can make it smaller, but it's very rare. And the only time it does that is when you nest, which we're not going to get into here. Quotation marks is basically telling it to make sure these words are together. So software engineer, if you don't put software engineer in quotes, you're going to get people that have the word software and the word engineer, but they're not going to be near each other necessarily. That doesn't mean they are a software engineer. They could have taken a software class and be a mechanical engineer. You just don't know. You have to put them in quotes to ensure you're getting exactly what you want. Um, Parentheses are what you use for or statements. Um, Boolean, like science, like a lot of math, reads things in a particular order. And or not is the order, and you put ors in the bracket parentheses. Now, I do understand that Google, sometimes you don't need the parentheses, sometimes you do need the parentheses. It really, Google is very unique in that Google has a lot of servers that your searches go through, but there's a large percentage of them that are for educational institutions and use an older Boolean logic. So that's why sometimes you can run a search and get one result and run the same search, get a different results, and you're like, why? It's because you're hitting a different server and it's using different Boolean logic. But the parentheses are for your or statements. And then the plus and the minus, you'll never use the plus. It's almost always only going to be the minus, is basically to remove things. Now, this whole presentation will be made available. There is a complete list of uh, Boolean operators available on my blog that you can get at, that has pretty much every Boolean operator there is. So there'll be a link, you can get to those. So now we're going to do the next step here is we're going to do a little comparison just so we understand the differences. We're going to pick on Google and Bing predominantly because they are the biggest. So in Google, it's the or the pipe. In the Bing, it's or pipe. Okay, great. Now in Google, they're saying sometimes you don't need to use the or. As a matter of fact, they're saying you don't need. I am not a big proponent of that. And the reason is because if you use the or, it doesn't read it. It doesn't change your results. But most importantly, it covers you no matter which server you hit. But most importantly than that, it also covers you if you want to use the same string into other search engines. So be mindful of that. The and in Google, it's automatic, no operator needed. In Bing, it's optional. In other search engines, you have to have the and. Putting the and in a Google string isn't going to change your results. It really doesn't matter. So I'm a proponent of doing it. Um, Not is the minus sign in Google, but in Bing it could be not or minus. I just use minus. And the reason I do that is because almost all search engines accept minus. Only a few accept not. So why play with it? And we'll get into more how these things are put together and what you can do with them. The quotes are the same. The brackets are the same. The brackets are ignored in Google. Okay, good. But you have to have them in Bing. So why not just use them? If they're ignored to Google, it's not going to change your results. If they must have in Bing, this way you can use your same strings over and over and over again. The site commands are the same. The in URL is okay in Google, but not in Bing. So when you're going to when you want to know stuff like the URL, the best way to go for Bing is in title, because the in title should get you very similar results, probably 90% of the same. So that's one of the biggest difference. Most Google-based browsers will accept the URL, but not all. File type is the same, so that's good. And then the asterisk, which is basically the wild card, is accepted in Google, but it's not accepted in Bing. So those are things you need to keep in mind. The other thing you need to keep in mind is Google limits you to 32 words. Bing doesn't. So keep that in mind. Now, one of the things I really want to show you is this tool here. And the reason I want to show you this is because I think it's really interesting. Um, it's really interesting how you can use this tool here to compare your results between Google and Bing. So what I'm going to see, what I'm going to do is I've already created one. So I'm just going to pop this in. This is actually an X-ray into LinkedIn, but I just want you to see the difference. Now, the first thing you're going to notice is the Bing side only gives you 147,000 results. The Google side brings you 1,300,000. Now, really? There's that big a difference? Let's look at this a minute. First thing you need to understand is look at the first set of results in Google. It's all junk. It's not even LinkedIn. It's your sales. That's them making their money. The next thing you need to understand is, yeah, okay, great. It says you have that many people, but do you notice any way to get to the other people down here? That's right. Despite it doesn't matter how many results Google brings you back, you will not see them all. It just doesn't allow it. Bing will let you see substantially more than Google will. Just a fact. Now that doesn't mean I use Bing more than Google. I actually use them both quite a bit. Um, but as you can see, there are differences. There are significant differences between the two. And for me, that means a lot. And so I equate Google and Bing different types of engines. To me, Google is the engine you use when you're not 100% sure what you're looking for. That's where it excels. I'm not saying it can't do other things, but that's where it excels. Bing excels when you know what you want. Doesn't mean it can't help you when you're not 100% sure what you want. It just means that's where it excels. They always just say Bing is the decision engine, and in a way they're right. It just is a much more, it's more precise. Um, and so that's the differences between the two engines. Like I said, I use them both quite a bit, um, especially when I'm X-raying. I don't use them quite as much when I'm just doing normal Boolean searches, but when I'm X-raying, I use them both because the results is different, and sometimes Bing is much better, sometimes Google is. So keep that in mind when you're out there doing your search, your strings. Keep in mind you're going to want to look at both of them. So for now, let's kind of look at a few simple strings, just using the information we've already gathered. So we've already gone over some of these different types of operators. So what we want to do now is just create a very simple string, just saying using and, or using the quotes, the parentheses, and then the minus. So let's think about this for a minute. We like, we obviously would like to see resumes. So let's just put resume. Then let's go ahead and say we want Java and remember, I'm putting in the and. I don't need to in Google. I just am because it's easier and simpler for me to copy and paste over to other search engines. And let's go with Unix, but not Linux. We want a software engineer. Oops, get that right, Dean. Okay, so oops, wrong one. Okay, so we got all that pretty good. Resume and Java and Unix, not Linux. Software engineer. So let's go ahead and cut this out. I'm a little anal about my. Okay, I don't know why that happened. I'm a little anal about my strings. So what I'm going to do is move up here and put down. We'll just put in software developer only because that's easier on my spelling. Okay, so all this looks good, but now we need some OR stuff. So let's go ahead and add an OR statement. Let's add in, we're going to put in and an OR with an OR statement, and we're going to put in Hadoop or pig, not the animal. There's actually something for big data called pig. Okay, let's give us our space in Linux and make sure I didn't misspell anything. Well, we'll find out because it'll tell me if I screwed up. And I didn't. Showing results for this. Okay, good. Everything looks good to me. Oh, I did spell Hadoop right. Yay. So that's why it's there. And there we go. That's our results, just doing a simple Boolean thing. Now, there is some junk here. You're going to notice there are a lot of jobs. There are a lot of other things, and then how you get rid of those is by minusing job or jobs or whatever. Notice how I wrote it: ands, then ors, then nots. Now, what I would do to get rid of more junk here is minus job. Even though Google should do it, I don't trust Google to do it, so I'm going to get rid of job and jobs, and I'm going to minus sample and example. And now we narrow it down to actual, real, legit people's resumes. That's Boolean. Notice without adding those minuses, we had thousands of results, a lot of junk. This is doing, yeah, thank you, Chad. I saw that was misspelled, but I was counting on Google to fix it for me. This is what happens when English is not your first language. Um, but I think you got the general idea. That's how you write a string. I mean, and this string, the way it's written, can be copied right into Bing. Now let's see what happens if we copy it into Bing. We got 528 there. I'm not going to do the Bing versus Google comparison one this time because it's a little hard to read. So I'm going to go ahead and do it via this page, which is still Bing, and we got 240,000 there. Now let's see why. It looks like for whatever reason it ignored a sample. Now why? I'm not sure. But once we get past all that, there's a few resumes in here that aren't too bad. So in this case, for this string, Google would be the better result, gives you better results. Just a fact. It's all about which gives you the better results, but you don't know until you run them. It also looks like they're getting stuff off of hirepeople.com, which we aren't getting here, thankfully, because you would have to pay to get access to those, and we don't want to do that. So there's differences. This is an example of a difference between Google and Bing, where Google is actually done better than Bing. Whereas the last one with LinkedIn, Bing did better than Google. So that's why you always run them in both. You'd be really surprised the difference between the two. I don't want to add a location, but thank you. I could add a location. Okay, you know what? Since somebody wants me to add a location, I will. Let's do it because we can't. We got to do it before, or I'm going to add in Seattle and then add in my ors, and there you go. Now, do I think this is 100% accurate? No, because this is not the way I would have done it. I added in Seattle. All that means is that the word Seattle is in the profile. It doesn't mean they're currently here. That's why I didn't add locations. And the reason I didn't add locations is because we're not doing a search that really is. This is not the best way to search for resumes. This is just the simple way. We're going to get into the better way to search there. In fact, you know what? Let's just do it now. Let's go ahead and clean this up a little bit, and then we will get into a better way to search for resumes. So I'm going to get rid of all of this junk at the end, and I'm going to go back to the front of it, and I'm going to now put, since I am in Google, in URL resume. And there we go. There are your resumes of people who are actually in Seattle that are what you want. Now, secret trick. Secret trick. You see all these resumes? A lot of them are legit real resumes. Pay attention to them. I've hired people from these pictures. And what's cool about it is you can use the timestamp to get an idea when they've been updated. So keep that in mind. Okay, so that's an example. Well, you notice there's only 9 results. Now, why is that? Well, let's look. I can almost guarantee you it's because of the Hadoop and Pig, and maybe even the minus Linux, because I'd be willing to bet you that most people that have Unix and are working in big data have both Linux and Unix. See the difference? Now, all of a sudden we jumped up to 38. That's just an experience thing. I've been doing it long enough. I kind of understand the way those types of things work. So let's keep going, guys. These are other commands that are really, really, really important. These are more advanced commands. File type. Most resumes are PDF, Word, RTF, or text. Most, not all. There are exceptions. You got SlideShare, you got other things, but those are the biggest. So if I was to go back into this search, and we're going to make it a little simpler now, but only just because we're about to add a whole lot of stuff, and I really don't want to. And then we go ahead and put in the file type command, and we'll just put in PDF. Let's see what happens. Google decides, are you a robot? Okay, get 4,870, and you'll notice they're all PDFs. And these are legit, Real resume. Now, don't think the reason why. Well, why'd we get so many? I deleted a lot of stuff that narrowed the search results down quite a bit. This is really bare. Java software developers all we're looking for, so that's why it's so. There's so many, but they're all PDFs, and that means they're all legit resumes. I could just as easily change this to doc, and I'm going to put the wildcard at the end because docx. It didn't, and there aren't that many, so let's just go with doc. Maybe it doesn't want to use let the wildcard go right now. Here we go. Here are docs. It didn't like the wildcard there, and that's sometimes what happens with Google. You gotta try different things. Yep. So they're saying docx are the same. They don't care. So that works well for me. So there you go. If I so there's 246 more. If I go in and I just use each of the four, excuse me, I'll get a boatload. Now you can have one string that says this or this or this or this. I don't like to do that, and the reason is because if you get 10,000 results, you're probably only going to get to see at best 1,000 because Google does limit you, and you'll miss out on some good ones. So I tend to do doc, then I'll do a PDF because, and then a RTF, then a text because it ensures I see as many as possible, and I love seeing as many as possible. So let's go back to PDF. Let's add in Seattle because somebody said location, and there we go, 330. Now, keep in mind, and I'm glad this is next. We're going to skip this because this is probably the most powerful operator you're going to see. We're going to skip that for right now. Number range. The number range is basically saying find me whatever that have this number range to that number range. So we're going to put 9800 dot dot 98500. In case you're wondering, those are zip codes within a certain number of miles from Seattle. You'll notice we only got 39. Now, why is that? To be honest with you, a lot of people don't put their addresses on their resumes anymore. And without the addresses, you don't have the zip codes. But this is a way to do it. And about 15 years ago, it was the best way to do it, but not anymore. A lot of people do not put I know my address isn't on my resume anymore. So a lot of people just don't put their address on the resume. Now, this can be used for other things. You can be, if you want to get an idea when somebody might have graduated or something like that, you can use it for dates or anything like that. Um, okay, so first of all, I don't know what remote life is. Dean, are you looking at what? Scott, be more specific. At any rate, so that's what the number range is for. Um, you can use it for area codes, but again, remember people use cell phones, so the area code might not help you. You can use it for dates and hope you're looking at graduation dates or work history dates or whatever, but that's how you use it. I'm not the biggest proponent of the number range anymore because it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work very well for me. Yes, I'm familiar with what you're saying, Scott. I'm not worried about that. This is a 101 class. We're not getting too advanced here. Um, so there you go. Now there are things you can do. As Scott's alluded to, you got these tools, which means anytime and all that. So if I go into the last year, whatever results I see probably are people that either just put their resume out there or may have put their resume out updated or something in the last year or what have you. Keep in mind the number range is why it's small. There we go. There's a lot more here. Not a lot more, but a decent amount more. So there are ways to do it. There's actually a way to use a date, but it's a Julian date, and trust me, it's a pain to figure out. So we're going to kind of skip that. Um, so let's keep going. One of the things that I will have a habit of doing, because the word resume doesn't cover, I mean, resume, CV, you got a lot of things that can do it, is using the tilde. The tilde basically means that word or a synonym, another word that means the same thing. So resume, CV, curriculum vitae spelled out, bio, whatever. So this, see, like we have CV here, appears resume. So the tilde will allow you to cover all those different things rather than writing out resume or CV or bio or curriculum vitae or profile or there's some other words that can get you in there. This is the way to do it because this will just say look for resume and any other word that could mean resume. All right, so we've gotten this so far, and keep in mind again, this is a basic class. I'm not trying to get too intricate here, but we are now going to break out what I consider to be the biggest and most important word, the most important operator there is, and that's the around function. To do that, though, we need to do something called X-raying. X-raying is the process of getting information from a website in a way in which it was not meant to do. So there you go. That's how you X-ray into LinkedIn. Let me get the year thing off. So we're looking at everybody anytime. That's people in LinkedIn. No skill set, just people in LinkedIn. Now, if I want to find Java and developer, I would simply do Java and developer, or I would leave the and off depending on how you want to do it. And these are all going to be people that have Java and developer. That does not mean they are Java developers right now. That means they have the word Java and they have the word developer somewhere in their profile or somewhere in their URL or somewhere. That does not mean they're Java developers. In fact, odds are pretty good they may not be, especially given the large number. Now you could say, okay, well, what happens if I put Java instead of Java and developer, I put Java developer into one thing and put it in the quotes. So we're looking for Java developer. That's better. But what if they're not a Java developer now? But they were 10 years ago. 10 years ago, yeah, Java was around 10 years ago. Now they're a C# developer. Does that help you really? No. In order to really do this right, you've got to figure out the anchor word. What is an anchor word? Anchor word is a word that always appears in every profile. Oh my lord. Sometimes I really hate LinkedIn, which appears in every single solitary profile of a given site. So, as an example, now that I'm signed in, let's open up Jay Ahmed's LinkedIn profile. Okay. What appears here? Okay. When I look here, I look at the word at, I look at the message, view and recruiter more. I look at the word present. And I'm thinking that's where they currently are, which means their current title. So I'm go, okay, let's just make sure that we're thinking correctly. Let's get a second one. You always want to make sure because not all of them are exactly the same. About me's are famous for not being the same. Oh, present. Ah, so what would happen if instead of just that, we go ahead and do this? Around, we'll say 10, and we'll use the word present. Notice the number went down, but I guarantee you every single one of them right now are going to be people who are currently have the title of Java developer. But why? Because we found the anchor word that appears in all profiles of people who are currently working, and it's present. And we're saying, look, within 10 words, forward or back for that word, and within 10 words of present, see 1, 2, 3, guess what? Java developer. That's what the around function can do. And if you look at a LinkedIn profile, you can use the word interests as a anchor word. That particular one doesn't have more than that. You can use the word experience as an anchor word. You could use skills and endorsements as an anchor word and find people that actually have um, these. Now I'm gonna cheat because I can. Don't ask. Just accept this for what it is. Um, so as an example, I'm looking for the word Amazon developer around 10 present Java. Let's see. There's Java, there's Amazon. Well, there's developer. Guess what? I just found people who are working at Amazon, who are developers, and who have Java. That simple. That easy. Voila. And that's the power of the around function that allows you to do things that you just wouldn't have thought of otherwise. Let's go into a different one. Well, that's not using the around function. Let's use, oh, you know what? Let's pick on Facebook if Facebook will let me. There we go. We have now torn apart Facebook. Now let's keep in mind, remember, LinkedIn says they have 620 million people. Okay. If you believe that, I have some land in the middle of the Marianas Trench for you. But let's give them the benefit of the doubt. Well, guess what? Facebook has 3.5 billion. Last I checked, billion is more than million. Here's how you find them. Easy, quick, and simple. I'm looking, in this case, Seattle, engineer, Amazon, around 10 to present. And I look for the word Java. Now, in most cases, they are not going to put what language they speak. So in this case, we're going to get rid of the Java. And this is going to open up substantially. But here's where you have to be smarter than the equipment we're working with. In this case, you got to understand Amazon is a Java shop. Majority of their developers are Java people. So just looking at Amazon is just fine. Now, if you were looking at Microsoft, you can say that. They do have Java developers there, but that's not the largest population of their developers. But with Amazon, it shows like is. And keep in mind, I'm looking for the word engineer. What would happen if we change this to developer, which is a much more common title at Amazon? Gazam. There we go. And that's how you could tear apart any single website out there using the around function as long as you find that anchor word. It's all about finding the anchor word that allows you to focus on what you want. That's what the around function. And if you haven't picked up on the excitement, I am excited about this because to me, this is when it comes to Boolean, which has become fairly stagnant, this might be the biggest thing. And the around function's been around for a while, but no one's really figured out how to use it until recently. This is the way you use it. You can literally, there is no site out there that you can X-ray into that does not have an anchor word of some kind that allows you to do it. I have a series of blogs about lesser known sites, and this is exactly what I'm talking about. And the around is big. Now I can change the 10 to whatever I want. 10's just what I find works the best. Sometimes I'll do infinite. If I'm not sure, I'll just do, I'll use the wild card, just go wherever, whatever, pick a number. I don't really care. But I tend to be pretty consistent in this. So let's go ahead. We played a little bit. And one of the things we learned when we looked here, that particular one isn't going to work. Let's see, is we also have the skills and endorsements. So let's see what would happen if we copy that and come back here. And instead of using present, we use that, but now keep in mind the word Java developer is not a skills. So let's see what happens now. 22 people that it's saying. Now here's the problem. Here's where the 10 may not work. Most people have more than 10 skills. Bingo. There we go. Now, does that mean there aren't more? There could be, but you got to understand, not everybody lists their skills under skills. Some of them list them in other places, but there you go. See, skills endorsement, skills endorsement, skills. That's what you're focusing on. What is it? Oops. What is it that can get you can get interest? You can pick. Um, Notice there are dates here. If you want to, you could pick dates. I wouldn't. You could do activity. The at is another one that's very common. Not everybody uses it, but a lot of people use that at. And I actually already have a string with the at on it, and we'll do the Java. So now what we're, oh my God, Google, you're a pain in my butt. Now what we're saying is Amazon develop around 10 at. So instead of looking down here in the experience area, I'm now looking up here in their, I can't forget what the word is for this, but they're basically look at me area. And this is the results we get. Sometimes this at function comes in really handy. I'm going to tell you where it comes in the most handy. He lives in Houston. His company is in Nashville. Well, if you want people that live in Houston and you use the present as a location, that ain't going to help you a whole lot now, is it? That's where the at comes in the most handy because it guarantees you're finding where they live, not where their company is. I mean, I live in Seattle, Washington. My company is back in Washington, D.C. So that's why the at comes in handy. So for this, I would probably add in um, something like Seattle, just so I can get people in Seattle. And now look, Seattle, Seattle, Seattle. And there we go. The fact that there are so many doesn't surprise me. I mean, Amazon's in Seattle. That's where it comes in handy because all I ever hear from people is how can I find people that are located in a specific location in LinkedIn without being in LinkedIn? Well, here you go. And let's keep something in mind. LinkedIn limits your search results to 1,000. The words come back the people come back based on the number of times the words you search for appear in their profile. So that means mathematically speaking, you can't see everybody. If you use this method, you can. You may not be able to in Google because they may limit you to a certain number of results. But if you take the same string into Bing, they don't limit you as much. And if you want to be really, really, really smart, something I enjoy being all the time, and you're saying, well, okay, now how do I get a hold of them? You can go ahead and do this. Add gmail.com at the end. Bam. Now you got people who not only are Amazon developers in Seattle with Java, but they have Gmail email addresses all right there in front of you. If you cannot get a hire out of 3,310 people, they have a problem. Now, this is not 101. We moved into 201, and I did that because I thought it was necessary because this operator is just that powerful. Every site, even GitHub, Facebook, they all have anchor words that allow you to tear them apart. All you got to do is figure out what is that anchor word that you can use that will get you the results you want. So let's move on. We are Boolean. Well, I'm not a Boolean, I am doing Boolean. So one of the things I like to do is and I'm really big on this, is I love people who blog about stuff. Because let's get real. If you're blogging about something, I mean, if I'm a garbage collector, I'm not going to be blogging about how to write Java because I may not know. I might write about drinking Java, but I'm not going to write about it. And so the question is, how can we search for blogs? I mean, there are easy ways. There are hard ways. We're going to do it what I consider to be the easy way. It's just blog URL. Let's just put in Java, see what happens. Boom, blog URL. Everybody talking about Java. There you go. Now a lot of it's GitHub, some of it's LinkedIn, some of it's whatever. Some of it may not be their blog, but it may be a link to their blog. If they're talking about it, that's what they are doing. A Java developer is not going to be, well, let me phrase that. He might be a professional yo-yoer, and yes, believe it or not, there are, is not going to be talking about Java development. They're going to be talking about yo-yos and things like that. Yes, believe it or not, there is professional yo-yos. They actually get paid. Scary, isn't it? So these are things you can do. Here's one that I really like because I find it extremely interesting is phone books. Did you know that you could actually use a phone book operator and find people? Tim Cook, phone book, white pages, boom, 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 boom. All these phone books or phone book like things that will find you information on somebody in a phone book. I mean, I'm not sure how else to say that. Let's do some combo stuff. Okay. Before we do that, just simple stuff. Don't forget to look at images. This is some of the stuff I've already talked about. Going to quickly go over it. We're going to use some, we're going to move on to some really cool stuff. Now, the first thing I want to show you is that there are tools out there that can help you with creating Boolean strings. On my SSAR page, there are several categories for Boolean string creators. This is one of the ones you can get access to. This is by Miro Partners, not by me. I've got several I've created that will just help you write a simple Boolean string. Well, not simple, but write a Boolean string. It'll allow you to save the string to use it over and over again. You can find it on the SSAR page. I'll give you access. You can download it, and there you go. This literally is one of the best ones I've ever seen. There are others, but this is a good one. Well, I'm glad I'm entertaining. Thank you. So let's keep going. These are all. If you look at the SSAR page, the Boolean part section SSAR page, SAR4, and the cheat sheet section on SAR2, you'll find a boatload of Boolean operators. I mean, Boolean tools that can create Boolean strings for you. I mean, this is one. Look at all the others I have here. This was done by a guy named Balaz, who most of you probably know. He created this one. I've got a couple in here I've created too. Here's a LinkedIn string builder. Simple one, but it works. Hashtags, everything you need to know. Now, speaking of hashtags, wouldn't it be nice to know who on LinkedIn actually is looking for a job? Do you know how LinkedIn does it? Hashtags. Guess what we just did? Hashtags without being in LinkedIn. There are 3 million people with the word Java who are open to work right now in LinkedIn. And you can do it right from here. You don't need to be in LinkedIn. You don't need to pay for LinkedIn. You don't need to do any of that. And again, if we want to be smart in the equipment we work with, so we aren't subject to worrying about having to find their email addresses and or looking in mails, let's just put Gmail in there, 19,000 with Gmail email address sitting right there in front of you. So here's the thing. I can pay $10,000 for LinkedIn Recruiter, or I can just do this. 10,000 free, 10,000 free. I mean, if I was J.D. Rockefeller, maybe I wouldn't care. But for me, $10,000 is a lot of money, and it's a simple way to do it. And at some point later on down the line, I'm going to do another one of these, which will explain to you how to get all this information out in a nice, pretty little spreadsheet, so it's easy for you. But that's another day. That's called scraping, and that will be something we do another day. All right, let's keep going because we got some things I want to play with. We got some presents you're going to get. First present is this. If you don't want to use tilde, this is pretty much every single solitary way of saying the word resume. If you're a vet, you look for veterans and stuff like that, this is the same thing. I want you to notice down here where it says minus Old Navy, minus Salvation, minus credit. If you look for an ex-military person, you may not want that. Just because they work at Old Navy does not mean they're from the Navy. Just because they work at Salvation Army does not mean they're ex-Army. We're not going to mess with that. This is the Gmails. These are the 26, 27 most common Gmail addresses. Statistically speaking, 98% of all Americans have an email with one of those. This is LinkedIn's little LinkedIn population do your own thingy. They're all right. Now, I've already shown you the Gmail trick. I'm not going to get into too many of these because most of these are pretty self-explanatory. But we are going to play some games now. One of my favorite thing, yeah, present. One of my favorite things are attendees lists, conference lists. Love conference lists. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this one right here that I created. Now, and we're going to tear it apart once I get it into the browser. I don't want you to think we're not. I'm not going to leave you blank like that. All right. So let's see what we did here. First of all, we're looking for veterinarians or veterinary conference list name attendees. Now, why? Think about it. List name attendee. I mean, those are the types of things you would expect. And file type PDF. Now, why PDF? I find that most attendees lists, if they're published, are going to be PDFs. The main reason for that is because they want people adding or changing or doing stuff to them. So that's the main reason why. Let's see what we get. Wow, we got 76,900, blah, 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 blah. Oh, wow, look at that. The American Veterans, whatever. That's cool. That's cool. Look at all this information, all these people. Wow, they went above and beyond on this battle. Really, they did a battle of the bands. Hey, I need to go to that conference more often. Look at the speakers. Guys, you see all these people? This is what you want. This is how you're going to get. Am I almost done? But you see all these speakers up here? I mean, if they're speaking, what do you think they are? Let me help you out. I really highly doubt a Java developer is going to a veterinarian um, conference. That's an example of what I mean. This stuff is pure, unadulterated gold. But look how I did it. I was very specific. Veterinarian to veterinarian in there. Now this should probably be capitalized, but it really doesn't matter. Conference, and then list or name or attendee. Notice how I put or here, but I used the pipe there. It really doesn't matter. And then I file type PDF. Why? Because I really knew that most of the time they're in PDF. I mean, there's 769,000 of them. So that's an example of some of the ways you could put strings together are just very unique. One of my favorite things that I really love to do is hashtags. Hashtags are cool because you can find all sorts of stuff with hashtags. So let's do a hashtag. Let's do hashtag. There we go. So I'm looking just for people using the hashtag Java. Now, why would I want to do that? Well, if they're using the hashtag Java, they're either drinking coffee, speaking of which, or they're programming in Java. That's really about the only two ways you use the word Java. So why wouldn't you? Let's keep going. Some more things. Some thoughts for you. First thing, before I even get into this is very important. When you write your string, do not think like a recruiter. Whatever you do not think like a recruiter. If you think like a recruiter, you're going to fail. Think like a candidate. Realize that as a recruiter, you're looking at a job description going, okay, they want Visual Basic. So I'm going to look for Visual Basic. Yeah, I know. I still remember Visual Basic. But remember, VB stands for Visual Basic. Visual Interdev is a suite of products where which is all based on Visual Basic, and you have to have Visual Basic to even use it. So why would you only look for Visual Basic? You look for Visual Basic or VB. See what people are saying about it. Once upon a time, J2E, well, J2E is Java. Okay, there's more to it, but if you're doing J2E, you got Java. Well, guess what? Some people say J2E, some say JE, some just say JE, some just say J2. Think like a candidate. Don't think like a recruiter. Don't just sit there and say, well, the hiring manager says this, so that must be it. You think the hiring manager knows every permutation for a word being used out there in the world today? No. Do your research. Find out every permutation for a word when you search, because you will end up finding more people, and most importantly, people nobody else is going to find. That's the whole idea. And so to that end, here's examples. Sales. You're looking for a salesperson. Well, most salespeople are part of some type. Most salespeople have a club, the 100% club, the 10% club, whatever. They like to use the 100%. They love using the word quota. Think like a candidate. Engineers, patents, white papers, things that they would do. Um, Team, you're looking for someone that's good at running a team. Don't just say manage. Well, okay, what about manage? What about leader? What about coach? What about mentor? What about advisor? What about tutor? You don't know what word they're going to use. All those words are fairly interchangeable. Now, granted, the word tutor is or advisor is probably going to get you more likely people from an educational institution, but not always. Not always. But coach, mentor, leader. Now, coach most likely is going to be more related to sales, but still, think like a candidate. Connect with me. This is one of the most interesting things I've done. This is basically a semantic string, semantic and natural language string, not really a Boolean string, but let me show you what it does. And I can make it a Boolean string pretty easy. Connect with me on cloud computing. Okay, so I'm looking for people that have a way to connect with them that are talking about cloud computing. Okay, so wait a minute. They have a way to connect with them? Well, isn't that what you're supposed to do when you're looking for candidates? Finding a way to connect with them? Well, here we go. This person up here is cloud computing basics, cloud computing news, but this person has a way to connect with them right there on their Twitter. Sometimes it'll be an email, sometimes it'll be a phone number. You just never know. Keep that in mind. There's always ways that you hadn't thought about and this is all comes into Boolean because it's all about thinking outside the box for Boolean. Download my resume, sales name. Look at some of the things. Email me at, call me at, phone me at. Look at all the variations that you can add. Let's do the call me at. Let's just see what happens if we do this. And then we're going to combine it with a little straight Boolean, not just semantic and or natural language. Call me at, okay, nothing in there. Let's put Java developer. Okay, it doesn't want to let me type. That's fine. Be that way. Call me at Java developer. Okay, this is getting interesting. Now, let's see. Let's go with just put in the word resume. No Boolean involved. Resume. To work out do it in one of the client server. Okay, that's a job. That's job. So now we have to get rid of stuff. So we're going to get rid of job and jobs. Look, University of Southern Carolina, I am actively looking for a full-time role in application development, full stack development, blah, 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 blah. Call me at. Well, I guess it worked, huh? That's some of the things you do now. It's time to really confuse the holy heck out of you. Something I recently did. You notice what I did there? I'm looking for phone numbers. You notice what I did? I'm not saying phone. I'm not doing that. I'm using icons. That's a straight Boolean string. That's an advanced Boolean string because I'm using icons. I'm not using words. That's a really advanced Boolean string, to be honest. This part isn't advanced. This is straight X-ray. This is no big deal. This part isn't advanced. But this right here, I've shown this probably 20 times, and I've yet to have anybody really say, oh, my God, they're using it. That anybody's using it. And if you think that's bad because that's phones, of course, you got to know if Dean has it for phones, Dean's going to have it for emails. Now, why would I do that? Granted, in most cases, you're seeing their actual email, but what if they don't? What if they just have an icon of their email and there is? So, as an example, on my own website, the icon to email me is there. So, you wouldn't be able to find my email if it wasn't on my page unless you use the icon function to do it. This is some really cool stuff. And yeah, I don't know what else to say because I mean I'm still kind of in awe-ish because I'm still amazed at how good it is and what it does and everything. I'm not sure what to say about it. New opportunities. Let's get rid of that. Do that. Oops, Dean, get your butt straight. Okay. Now, in this case, we're going to get a lot of jobs, but because and we didn't specify LinkedIn, but these are people looking for new opportunities. This is another way to search for people who are actually looking. All these things, job inquiries, full profile, it's free, Java at Seattle, you'd be surprised, worked at Apple, top engineers to follow. Here we go. This is one string that I put together a while ago that to this day I am like, really, you gotta believe it can't be that easy. These are, you want to find people who worked at Apple? Here you go. They all worked at Apple. In some cases, they're going to be lists of people who worked at Apple. That easy. Extra, extra, people on the move, people to watch, movers and shakers, head of class, recently joined, newly appointed, follow me on, show my tool with, okay, this is my own tool. People on the move or people out your moves. Look, seeking or seeker or looking for or insert, this is the type of stuff that you would do to find people that might be looking. And here's a nice little link building search operator cheat sheet that can be of help to you, just to let you know. And with that, we are pretty much, I got 7 minutes. So we went beyond just Boolean 101 because Boolean 101 is really simple. It's pretty much this. So I wanted to get more into more advanced things and realize there's just so much you can do out there that you may not even realize. So I'm open to questions, or I keep showing a few things to maybe help you guys out with some stuff. It's your call, your guys' call. Any questions? I will go with. Okay, while y'all think about it, I'm going to show you a few things. These are some new things I recently did. So what I decided to do, this is a custom search engine, find who, and I decided to create it to where I can populate it from somewhere and look at what you get when you put in the word Java. It searches either Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, TikTok. That's that one. But there's another one that searches, up, wrong one, same one. Let me go to two. Reddit, Blogspot, Delicious, Discus, Foursquare, Quora. Now you're probably going, okay, how is that going to help me? Well, we're looking for Java. Let's add in the word developer, and then let's add in our gmail.com, which, by the way, is the most common in the US. Look at that. We got 34,000 people sitting here that are Java developer and give me my Gmail email address from all over the place. GitHub, LinkedIn, pretty much everywhere. There you go. Would love for you to show us how you find compensation analytics, 3 to 8 years, Sugarland, Texas. I thought Sugarland was a band. Okay, or nearby Greater Houston Data Sales Incentive Plan Workday within sales organizations. Okay, so first of all, realize that a lot of the stuff you're listing there don't need to be there. So a compensation analyst, if they don't have Excel skills, then they're not really a compensation analyst. I mean, compensation, they live it. Anything to do with that kind of stuff live in Excel. So I wouldn't be searching for that. Within a sales organization, that's going to be tough because sometimes you can't know what part of an organization they're in, whether they're in the sales or not. Not to mention the fact that some companies will not have, they'll have a compensation analyst strictly for sales, but they don't live in sales. They live in the compensation department. So, or the HR department. So that isn't something I'd worry about. The Houston, Texas part, now that is something to be worried about. The 3 to 8 years, okay. This is where I cheat. I don't cheat. I shouldn't say that, but this is where I use some things. Oh, I haven't updated this list yet with this particular thing, have I? Let me see real quick. Yeah, no, I haven't updated that. I have a custom search engine that's really, really, really good that would help here. So let's go ahead and look at what you're looking for. So in this case, one of the things I would look for is possible. Let's go ahead and copy the analyst. Okay. Keep in mind, you're not always going to know all those other pieces of information. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of that. I'm going to put in the word compensation analysts, and I'm take out the ads because they're not going to be called analysts. They're going to be called analysts. And I want to see something. Populate all. I'm using my own tool just to make life simple on me. So just humor me. Well, first let's see if. Okay, so there are 3 compensation analysts on about.me. That doesn't make me feel warm and fuzzy. Zoom info. There's a boatload of them here. So this, and you said Houston. Let's put in the word Houston. Okay, there's still quite a few. Some of these are companies. So let's see. This person is a compensation analyst at Harris County, Texas. Now, you're probably going, okay, how that help me? First of all, I don't pay for Zoom info. I refuse to, because what are they going to do for me? They're going to let me do this, and then they're going to give me a work email. Nothing personal, but I can figure out work emails by myself, especially when they're giving me this majority. I mean, let's look. This is the domain. Then the email starts with an A. What's her name? Alice. So basically, her email is either Alice at whatever, Alice G at whatever, or AG at whatever, or A Allison dot Gordon at whatever. I mean, it's not hard to figure out their work emails. So I'm good with that. And since they're dumb enough to give me the HQ phone number, and it's the same area code, I don't think I need the direct line. I can call in and use their directory and get to her. So there you go. That's simple for that one. But I'm not done. We're not done. Let's play with Rocket Reach. See, does Rocket Reach have any? This is where we have to be a little bit intricate and change this around. We're going to cut that and put that around here. Compensation analyst around. Let's see what we get. We only get two, so that means they don't have many compensation analysts. Doesn't surprise me. All people. Oh, wow. Look at that. All people has a boatload of them. Let's put in the word Houston, get around here, and they still 9,200 in Houston, who are compensation analysts. Let's open one. All people, all the way. Okay, so she's in Houston. She works at Cybercons. Her name is Jennifer, whatever. Her email starts with a J. So anybody want to hazard to guess what the different permutations for her email is going to be? I mean, you've got more than enough information to find anything you want here. So let's keep going. There is one in particular I want to see. I just got to find it because Lord knows I got plenty. There we go. Schedule.com. Wow. Interesting. Texas has a total rewards compensation conference. And look at all those people. Now, not all of them are compensation people, but some of them are going to be. This is a lead. Some of these are lead compensation analysts at Hagar Incorporated. So we got their name. We know where they work. We know that probably wouldn't work because they're in Austin. Although I don't know, is Austin close to Houston? I don't think so. It's in Austin on the other side of Dallas from Houston. I don't know. I'm not up on my Texas geography. I'll have to ask Shannon. But I think you get the idea. I mean, finding these people are not hard. Now, if you're saying, can you find them easy and simple and like it's on LinkedIn? Well, yes and no. But keep in mind, you're still not going to be able to see anybody. And if everybody else is finding them on LinkedIn, you're competing with everybody. But that's okay. Let's do this. Let's go ahead and grab my compensation piece, cut it. Let's go ahead and get rid of all this because frankly, where they're working right now isn't relevant. If you want to do the work thing, you need to find all the companies that would have people like this with the skills you're looking for. Let's go ahead and do this. We got 37, and I haven't added in the word Houston yet. So let's add, oops, come on, Lordy. Now, the other thing to keep in mind, I'm being very precise with the title. It could be that there are other titles. There are 7 in Houston. Um, mm, Seems like that's wrong. There we go. So now we use the at, which means we're looking at the top part of the resume and we get a boatload more. And there you go. Now, because we got to be able to contact these people, that's when we pick on Gmail first. I usually go Gmail, Hotmail, Outlook, and Yahoo, and usually I'm good by then. You're in Texas, so I seem to recall Excite's used down there a lot. AOL's a decent amount. um, Google still thinks I'm a freaking robot for some odd reason, but there's 232 of them. Now some of them are students, so you're gonna have to be careful. I didn't give you the 3 to 8 years experience. That's a little more difficult. What I can do though for you is blah, 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 give me a moment here. And this can be found on the. Okay, that's not what I want. I just want to look at it, but thanks for sharing. Blah, 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 blah. I may have to be signed in to look at it. Yeah, I do on that. So let me go over here real quick. That's my personal SSAR page I'm going into because it's just easier. Let's see, get to the CSEs. That's the one I want right there. We know we want compensation analysts. So give me a minute here. We'll just start with simple for right now. And then we will elongate out of there. Okay, so you want how many years? 3 to something years experience. So you're probably looking for 3 to 8 years. You're gonna have to look on your 5 to 10, and probably under 5. You'll have to look at both of them. And then you'll have to add in Houston as a location. But this custom search engine will work real good. I'm really annoyed because I could have sworn I had this on my tool, but I may not. I have to write a note to myself to add it. Um, so I'll add that because it's supposed to be on my tool somewhere. But that's one way to do it. Now, if you want to do it via LinkedIn, the best way to do it is going to be to use years. But again, you're going to run into a problem with it. So right now we're looking for compensating analysts around 10 in Houston. That's great. But to get the years of experience, we need date parameters. So if we assume 18 when you graduated high school, so then 4 years of college, that's 22. So that'd be the minimum. And you want 3 to 8 years experience. So that's basically 25 to 28. And you go back 25 to 28 years from right now, you're looking at 1997, I think. Don't quote me on this, please. So what we could do is add in the year 1997 to, well, that was 3 years, right? So that was 3 years. So let's go 8 years would be another 5. So let's go 92.1997. See if this works. And there's 24 that we know for a fact fit that bill. But again, that's rough because even within LinkedIn, it's really hard to know exactly how many years experience. So that's where the tough part's going to be. The best thing that I would recommend doing is going ahead and look at when they graduated their last year of college, and then go back and then go the number of years you need. So I would probably consider adding, if you're going to do it within here, I would probably go ahead and add in, let's pick a year, 1997 around 10. And what is, let me open one up real quick so I can see, is it called education? Yes, okay. Now there's another way to do this. I'm just doing it this way for now. There is one other way to do it. Around 10. Let's see what that gets me. It may not work at all. I don't know. Oh, got me one person, so I guess I'm not totally off. And it wants it without quotes. Okay, we got 22 now. Okay, so that helps you a little bit. Now, LinkedIn actually has a set of Boolean operators specifically to them that I believe covers this. And let me see if I can find that set of Boolean operators real quick for you. I think, if I remember correctly, oh, you know what? I know where I have them. Never mind. Let me close that. I know exactly where they are. Ba- 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 ma- ba- 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 ba. Come on, you can do it. Let me see if it's listed here real quick. There we go. There's what we can use. So what we can try here using this, we got interested in, joined, all this stuff here. School, zip code, radius. Yeah, this operator will not, these operators will not find what you want, which is a graduation date or a date related to how many years of experience they have. So it's going to be tough to X-ray into LinkedIn and get that information. I've never been a big proponent for looking for user experience. And the main reason for that is because user experience doesn't denote skill level. My son is basically does what I do, and he's got about 4 years, 5 years of technical work experience, but he can run rings around most people with 3 times that much experience. So I'm more interested in the work they do. But I hope that answered your question. But that's how you can go about doing it. There's a lot of different ways. The geo is going to be what you want to focus on. Your title, as far as the sales stuff, like I said, you're not going to know without reading what they do or talking to them. Incentive plans, you can add in those words, but again, no guarantee. The Excel sheet, if they're a compensation analyst, they have Excel skills. There's just open and shut about that. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. I don't know one that doesn't. I know quite a few. So I hope that answered your question. If it didn't, if you want to go ahead and grab my email off LinkedIn and email me, I'll set aside a time to sit with you and go through it in more detail. But I kind of don't want to get too into detail here. Can you show us an example? I'm not sure what an example of what, but okay. Any other questions? Because we're over. I do that a lot. All right, then I guess we're done for today. And
Yeah.
I want to thank you all for listening to me pontificate and talk and yap and all the other things I do. My coffee's still warm, so I'm good.
Well, on the behalf of everyone, I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to even present this amazing presentation, especially the icons. I didn't even think that was possible. And like Scott said, you are the icon of sourcing in general. So thank you so much. Also, I want to thank everyone who's attending the event today. We do have an AMA event on July 1st. So please follow us on our socials, put on put on the notification because soon we'll be releasing the information in regard to that. Also, I just want to thank just everyone, our team putting this together. And if you guys have questions about the presentation itself, the videos, please email me at kiki@everyone.us. For the slides, for the video, that's the best email. Also, all the footage will be on our website as well.
And keep in
Um,
mind, guys, you can find my email on my LinkedIn profile, and I'm open to spending time and helping anybody. You just got to email me. We'll find a time and figure it out.
all right, guys. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day and see you next time.